Hey guys, welcome back to Flying in Space with Planet Head. It's been a little bit. Last day of the weekend, and this is actually a video mostly to be helpful to one of my corp mates, one of the newer guys to the game who's trying out NPC Null for the first time. But also, I thought this might be helpful to other people. That it might be useful to anyone who's trying to sneak out to nullsec or go out to lowsec for the first times. And it's not going to be an all the ways that you could do this, but how do you stay safe while you're just trying to live out in nullsec or lowsec or NPC nullsec? And if you know some of these tricks, it could be really helpful to you, especially to new players. This comes from practice. The things that I'm going to go through here kind of come from practice for myself over the last year and a half of flying around as just an alpha, and then later on as an omega, and just living on my own out in the middle of nowhere. And I found a few tricks. There are other ones. I'm not going to be able to go through them here, but if you guys think of any that I don't come across, I want to keep it as basic as possible. So let's dive right into it after I get a little drink of water. By the way, I am rationing my coffee intake, still a little bit under the weather. I got some physical maladies that are working their way through, but hopefully it's getting better. And hopefully I can get back to coffee on a much higher level soon. I did have a little bit today. So, the question was, in my corp mate, he's kind of new to getting out here. He got stuck a couple times while he killed some rats, and he was getting the loot and trying to figure out as he went through the loot what he wanted to keep and what he wanted to save. And while he was doing that, he got killed twice doing this. And so I thought I'd go through a few things that I do. And I'm not going to be able to think of them all, nor are they going to be in a priority list, but the ways that I have things set up. And there's definitely some upgrades that I could have in here, like my overview and stuff like that. You know, I'm a part-time player, so there it is. So the simplest one that I can tell you of that has saved me 1,000 times is separating out my local and putting it in a spot that is very, very visible to what I can see. I put it at the top up here, and I do not have it with any other window. So there's no chance that I can maybe, let's say if I had my locations window here, and I combined it, and then I was checking out my locations and I was messing around here, I might not notice that somebody came into local. So I try to be very careful with that, and I leave it in its own box. That's number one, probably the single most important, just because all that has to happen is you get caught once, you lose your ship, and you're just frustrated. So if that can save you, big bonuses there. Number two is exactly what's right next to it. The locations area. I keep that as another separate window. You don't have to have it as big as I do. Just have it right here. Basically, I have it in there so that at any point in time that I have to warp away, I can just click on my location and warp. I don't have to scroll over here in my overview and try to find a spot to go to. I have save spots that are saved in the system under the locations window. Now, if I remember correctly, that should be the L. Is it the Shift L button? The L button will bring up all of your locations. Or is it the Control L? I'm trying to remember here. Shift L, Control L. It's one of them. Is it Alt L? No. Is it L? That's all your locations? It's a window. Let's see if I can find it here. Now this is a little bit scary whenever I do this because obviously I don't have access to my local, but I am in a safe spot. So, let's see here, navigation, locations. I know it's a hotkey, I just can't remember which one it was. And I know I've used it 1,000 times and I've said it 1,000 times. Eh, you guys can figure it out. I don't want to spend 1,000 hours on that. But having these two windows up are incredibly important to me to keep me alive. Maybe the most important. There's a lot of other things that are helpful to you, but these two, for instance sakes, are good. Now, locations. While I have the window here, I've created two. Now, I literally just came to the system because I kind of flew away from where I normally hang out at to make this my spot. We'll get into that here in a little bit. But I flew into the system and I instantaneously made a location that was near the gates, and then I also made a location that was near the station. Doesn't mean I'm at the station. Doesn't even mean that I have to be within 100 kilometers of the station. I just want to be within 14.3 AU of that station and of the gates of those two save spots. I can make as many save spots as I want to, but I want to set those up. And while it may seem like it takes a long period of time, it really doesn't. I can usually get that set up within a minute or two of just flying around. While I'm flying around doing those, I get a lay of the land as well. And but having those save locations are very important, partly because it gives you quick spots to fly to. The second part is if you have more than one save location, if somebody is going that extra mile to try to combat probe you down, which really doesn't happen as often as you would think. Sorry. But if they are, having multiple locations to warp from one spot to the next and you just keep moving around will frustrate them, and it will do two things. It will actually get them to go away. But number two, it will say to them, hey, this is not an easy target for me to go after. I'd much rather go after the guys who are sifting through their inventory. Okay. So setting up locations, having the locations window, having a local window, both of those wide open for easy access right at the top of the screen. So basically I can't miss anything. Now, one thing that I don't have set up is my overview, and that is one thing where it's really close, but I should have this set up at some point. But you definitely want to have a good overview that will highlight if anyone hits the grid with you with a different color, so it will fly at you. So maybe you can get out at that last second, but we're not going to dig into that too much. If you want to mess around with overviews, please do. That is a rabbit hole that never ends. So to bounce off of these two, actually these three, I'm going to go into the next section, which is knowing your layout, knowing the layout of the system. So couple things to think about with this. Now, I am in a fairly large system right now, and what I like to do is know where things are at. Now, if you notice here, if I've got the system map up right now, and knowing where everything's at, I've got the two gates down here on the southern bottom part of the window here, and then up here, right up here, I think, where are we at there? There's the station right there. So right here should be, well, right in this general area should be where that station is at. There's there's so many moons here that it doesn't show the station, but if I hover over here, it will actually show the station right there. So it's right in that same spot. There's just so many asteroid belts there. Part of it here is to know your area. And one thing that it took me a long time to understand, it's the living world of Eve. When somebody comes, think of it from the hunter's aspect. They're looking for easy kills. And so whenever they come into a system, they're going to do a quick D-scan. They're going to check out to see what is in the area, and if anything pops up, now they're going to start searching around and looking for you. A great example would be, let's say, we'll go back to the map. And these are their two stations right here. And let's say I warp over to, I'm just going to warp 100 km out just so I don't get any fights.
Warp drive active.
Watch my bubble move as I fly. At some point. Here we go. So as I'm flying toward this, both of these gates, I'm now within 14.3 AU of those gates. So anybody coming into the system right now, if they did a quick D-scan, and I have D-scan down here for a reason, they would then know that I am within 14.3 AU. And if they're worth their metal, and trust me, there are some great Eve players out there that can quickly track things down, they will know that I'm probably at one of these systems spots, or I'm at a save spot, like right here. Watch this.
Warp drive active.
I'm going to go right to here. So this can be a little bit frustrating sometimes for people because they'll see that you're close to them, but then they realize, wait, he's not at any of these sites. He's at his own save spot. And 9 times out of 10, I've found that that will just get somebody to go away. So what does that mean? That means know your area. Now, let's say I were to fly over to these asteroid belts over here, or these moons. Warp within 100. Once I get all the way over here, come on, I just want the visual. Okay, so now that once I fly all the way over here, notice how if somebody were to come into the system, they'd come through one of these two gates, and if they were to leave the system, they were to come through one of these two gates. So at no point here are they, if they were to come in and out through these gates, would they actually see me because I'm so far away. All right? So that's another part there is know your land, know what you've got. Now let's say I come in here and I'm out here and I'm trying to blow up these battleships out here, killing some stuff, blah 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 blah. Somebody warps in, they hang out for a little while. I see them in local. Got my directional scanning up. Then suddenly I start seeing my directional scanning a combat probe popping up here, there, here. Like, uh-oh, there's 1 combat probe and then 3 combat probes and then 8 combat probes. That means that they're pinpointing where I'm at, if they are so inclined. A lot of guys won't even take the time to go that far. But even if they are trying to do that, then having your save spots, I love doing this. It's one of my favorite things to do, especially when I used to live out in the Great Wildlands. I would warp from basically moon to moon and make different save spots all over the place. And I had fun that way where people were trying to track me down. And they would actually give me a thumbs up sometimes that I had successfully avoided them because I was an alpha character without any cloak. They could see that I had a ship that they wanted to blow up, but they couldn't catch me. And sometimes it would last about 15 minutes with a cat and mouse game, and then they would move on. That would do, again, 2 things. Number 1, it would keep me alive. But number 2, and this might be right up there with the 2 windows up top, your reputation. Once people know that you're not going to be sitting around waiting to get shot at, they're not going to try to track you down as much. I've had that happen to me years ago when I used to play, when I played out in Owasso and had my own little system that I was kind of flying in and out of, and I had a guy who would come in and try to track me down every once in a while, and we had a little cat and mouse game, but it was fun. Most of the time, the guys would just move on. They were like, no, don't waste your time. You'll waste a half an hour going after him and not getting him, where you could go after a couple miners over and a couple belts 2 systems over. So your reputation and your ability to avoid getting shot at are incredibly important. Couple other things. So if you notice, I warped into the station here. I warped within 14.3 AU. I hit a D-scan here. The reason why my D-scan is right here is I want to see if there are any interdiction bubbles either here or if I was to fly back over to my save spot near V4. If there's no interdiction bubble, that means I might be able to safely dock up and just get out of complete harm's way. And again, that's partly knowing your area, that sort of thing. Now, one other thing, and I'm not going to get so ingrained into this part because there's so much involved with it, but knowing your align times, knowing how long it takes you to get out of an area. If I'm ratting in a frigate or a destroyer, I know my align times can be pretty quick. But I'm now moving up into the cruisers and the battle cruisers and even maybe battleships. Those suckers can take a lot longer to align. So even though you might not want to warp away from a kill right when you first start a system or somebody first comes into the system, you definitely want to get aligned to a spot so that if you see somebody show up in your overview, that you can quickly just warp off. I'll give you an example. We're going to go ahead and align to my save spot here. Now let's say I was a little bit lackadaisical. I really wasn't paying attention. Maybe I was drinking a cup of coffee or talking to somebody on the side. Maybe the dog just threw a ball at me and wants to play. Then I look up and suddenly I see there's a guy in system. I hit the D scan real quick and I see 8 combat probes or 4 of them. So I quickly go and I align toward wherever I want to go to. And this is for miners and stuff like that. As long as you're aligned, as soon as that guy possibly shows up in your local, unless he's cloaked or he's got super special abilities, but as soon as he starts coming in, if I just warp, it's an insta warp to get out of there. So that's another way that you can do it. One last thing, and this is kind of, now when I say last thing, it's one last thing for this video. I know there's a ton of other things that I can get into. These are just some quick things that I do that can save me. I really wanted to make this video for my corp mate, so I'm going to post it in our corp Discord so that he might be able to learn from it, because I don't want him to get discouraged from going out to NPC Null Sec or into low sec. But the other one is kind of just playing the game around the game. So you notice I'm in a local spot here. Okay? So you can always go do something else. So let's say, I think if I remember correctly, in Asteroid Belt 1, well, do I have anything on me? Wow. Oh yeah, I do have a lot of junk. Okay, let's drop a piece of junk here. I'm just going to drop some uranium charges. We're going to jettison that. Yes. Okay, so let's say I'm sitting here and I'm trying to go through my inventory. Stack all. And I'm going, okay, I gotta drop some of this stuff here. Wow, I am filled up on my inventory. Probably shouldn't have flown out here with this. But let's say I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, can I fit what's in this cargo bay? Oh, I probably can, but do I want to get rid of something? Suddenly I see somebody boots in, so I say, okay, align to, whoops, I'm already at that site. I'm going to say align to that save spot. So I'm already turning. Now I'm still looking here. He's right there. I'm hitting my hotkey for my D-scan just to make sure I don't see any combat probes. Now at this point I start seeing 1 or 2 combat probes. Or I see somebody come within distance of me. Now I need to get out of dodge. So I'm going to warp away. And then over here, and I did do it fast enough. Basically, I save the location of that stuff. Now, let's say I did do it. I was trying to do too many things at once. And it would save it right up here. And then I do the very next thing. And this is the best part. I point myself in a general direction. Okay, hit my afterburner or my micro warp drive. Micro warp drive would be very much better. And then I unpump it once, turn that sucker off. And then I hit log off safely. Because number one, they've already proven that they can combat probe the area down. Now at this point, I can still hit my V from my directional scan to see if he's getting close. Now let's say at this point, one combat probe shows up. Then possibly at this point two. I'm going to go ahead and abort that. What will end up happening is I'll log off. Nothing really to worry about. And we all know, all of us have a second account. Okay? We all have a second account. There's no getting around it. Go play your second account for like an hour, a day, half an hour. Even if he was combat probing you down, he wouldn't have gotten you specifically to that spot, and you were moving. So what could end up happening is you go and you play the second account. You do your planetary interaction, or you go blow something else up, and then you come back half an hour, 2 days later, and grab that stuff that you left. Now, you can't grab salvage, obviously, but you can try to do that. Now, it is, and this, I want to be very honest about this, it is a blind warp in. So if he was in a perfect world for him, he was able to combat probe down where you were at, then warp to that spot. He could actually shoot you if you logged back in and came to that same spot. But most of the time, guys aren't going to sit around and wait for that. Especially if you've got a junk ship like I do, a Thorax. Nobody's going to wait on a Thorax. Now, if you've got a super expensive ship, like a 500 million ISK ship, then I'd be a lot more careful with what you're doing. But if you're just trying to have some fun out here in nullsec, try that out. And you know what? If somebody does wait for me that long to get me on a log back in, more power to them, and great for them. So that's all I got for this video. Hope it helps anybody out there stay a little bit more alive. If you have any other ideas or thoughts, I'm sure there's a lot of other ways that people can stay alive out here using cloaking devices, setting up intel channels, all sorts of different things. If you think of any, please feel free to comment in the comment section. Other than that, that's all I got for tonight. I'm going to go drop all this stuff out if I forgot that I had. So, fly safe, fly dangerously, fly however like you want. I will talk to you guys soon. Oh, shoot. I am sorry. One last point. Hold on. One last way that you can keep yourself safe. I probably should have said this earlier. Don't stay in the same area. Randomize your areas up. Don't play, especially when you're out in NPC nullsec. If you're doing it on your own, don't just sit in one area. Move from system to system or check different things out. Look for areas of low traffic, systems that don't have through traffic. Don't hunker down in one spot. Find 4 or 5 of them that you can move from one area to the other. That way you become less, what's the word I'm looking for? Less predictable. Less predictable is good. So scout out 4 or 5 areas that you like to do. Drop a different ship in each one if you want to. Find a station. A lot of the systems out there, like Stain and Syndicate and kind of the other ones, have a lot of NPC stations that you can leave a couple thoraxes all over the place. Do that. Don't get stuck in one area and plan your whole day out that way. And once you get that set up some inclusions so you can jump from one area to another. What the heck? Well, that is another way. So there's a ton of different ways you can stay alive. Okay, that's about it. So, hey, fly safe, fly dangerously, fly out like you want. I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.